Welcome, everyone. This is Dawn Williams, Senior Director of Conferences, Meetings, and Events for the National Minority Supplier Development Council. Thank you for joining us for the Minority Business Development Agency Enterprising Women of Color Initiative. This session is presented in partnership with the National Minority Supplier Development Council and powered by the Coca-Cola Company. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Attendees have been muted and will be in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. If you have any questions for our speakers during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A box in your BlueJeans control panel. Our moderator will bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end. The chat box should be used for troubleshooting technical issues and for administrative support. Again, please use the Q&A box in your control panel for questions for the speakers. Today's session will not be live streamed, but will be recorded. Finally, be sure to stay tuned to the end of the session to learn about other upcoming programming. Momentarily, we will be joined by Jathita Hernandez, Senior Advisor of External Affairs of MBDA, to kick off today's session, The Mental, Emotional, and Physical Comeback for Women in Business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the fourth edition of the Minority Business Development Agency's Enterprising Women of Color virtual series in partnership with the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council. Today is the final installment of our 4-week virtual series as we provide the last ingredient and possibly the most important in developing your formula to a winning comeback. For the last 3 weeks, we have come together to provide tools and resources for women of color entrepreneurs to develop their formula for a winning comeback. We kicked off the series with Get Money, the comeback edition, and discussed how to access capital. Our second installment was a candid fireside chat with Lisa Price, founder of Carol's Daughter, to discuss all the aspects of entrepreneurship. Last week, we followed up with creating growth and success strategies in your comeback with Felicia Butterfield-Jones, who provided another great set of tools to help you navigate through unexpected hardships. And today, the mental, emotional, and physical comeback for women in business, featuring actress and entrepreneur Taraji P. Henson, along with therapist and mental health expert Dr. Sherry L. Blake and author and business strategist Nick Kober-Johnson. Over the next 2 hours, you will hear a power-packed webinar discussing how to ensure emotional, physical, and mental self-care as we embark on the new normal in our professional and home life. These are the key components needing to help you define your formula for a winning comeback. Before we get started, I'd like to offer some pause and give space and light to everything that is happening within our country, across our cities, and in our towns. We want you to know that MBDA remains dedicated to our mission of being the only federal agency dedicated to the establishment and growth of minority business enterprises. MBDA has a history of building bridges, as we were established during the civil uprising and riots of 1968. We were established to be a part of the solution to address economic disparities, and for more than 50 years, we have played a key role in sharing that minority businesses play a part in the global and economic growth of our communities. We know that this is a very critical time in our communities, and MBDA is committed to ensuring that minority businesses have access to capital, contracts, and the resources they need to remain resilient. I would like for you to keep in touch and keep connected with MBDA. So at the end of this webinar, please follow us at USMBDA on our social media networks. Stay up to date and keep connected with MBDA as well as our Enterprise and Women of Color events and resources. And let's not forget that we're all in this together. Now I'd like to turn it over to NMSDC to bring us remarks. Adrian?
Great. Thank you, Jadita. And good day, everybody, and welcome again to our fourth and final session of the Enterprise and Women of Color program. It's my pleasure to welcome you to another important, inspiring conversation, with today's topic again being the mental, emotional, and physical comeback for women in business. This has been a particularly meaningful series for all of us, and we give our sincere thanks to the Minority Business Development Agency for their partnership in presenting these 4 sessions. We also appreciate our friends at the Coca-Cola Company for their sponsorship and support of the Enterprise and Women of Color series. And on a more personal note, it's with so much happening around us and changing around us, even since our last session last week, I especially appreciate you choosing to focus on your personal and professional well-being. NMSDC is more committed than ever to continuing our mission and finding new ways to support the minority business community. And we're making every effort to be responsive to your needs and provide programs, services, and resources that will help you remain competitive, sustainable, and positioned for the long term. So beyond that, however, we're thrilled that the Enterprise Women of Color series is building connections and creating a new community of female entrepreneurs and leaders. And we know that the women of color are the backbones of our community. Before we dive into today's topic, I'd like to once again thank our participants of last week's session, our moderator, Therese Thompson from the Coca-Cola Company, and Valicia Butterfield-Jones of the Recording Academy. And to our panelists, Alicia Bones-Mercado, Psyche Terry, Rosa Santana, Selena Cuffey. Thank you to all of them. They provided some great insights, great information, and we all walked away very inspired by their stories and their journeys. When we began putting together topics and speakers for the 2020 Enterprise and Women of Color series, I don't believe we could have ever imagined just how timely and relevant today's session would be. To say things are complicated right now would be a serious understatement. And all too often, in the midst of caring for family and keeping business moving forward while living and working in an entirely new and sometimes frustrating conditions, it's really easy to forget about caring for ourselves. We as women of color tend to put our needs last. So today, this is our opportunity to pause and to give ourselves some time to recharge and refresh our minds, our spirits, and our bodies so we are ready for the comeback strong. Now, I'm pleased to introduce my partner in crime here, Therese Thompson, the Vice President of Global Supplier Diversity for the Coca-Cola Company. Therese has been with Coca-Cola for more than 30 years, leading through numerous roles of increasing responsibility ranging from operations to finance. She assumed her current leadership position in April 2012. The Coca-Cola's mission and commitment to supplier diversity statement says something that really does resonate with me. And it states that the bottom line is we are committed to being a strong, responsible company that delivers on its promises, continues to do the right thing as the world changes, and tells the world what we stand for. And the reason why I refer to Therese as my partner in crime is that she is right here in the trenches with us, fighting on behalf of minority businesses, and particularly women of color entrepreneurs. So with that, I will turn it over to Therese Thompson.
Adrian, thank you. And I take that as a high honor being your partner in crime. I think that the script has changed for all of us, but I still pinch myself every day when I think about how lucky I am as an African-American woman to work for a great brand like the Coca-Cola Company that through bad times and good times allows us to support our community and our businesses in such a special way. And this is the culminating event of what has been truly a great series of events in partnership with MBDA and NMSDC, two partners that I would not trade for the world. So it's such a pleasure to be here and do this. And I'm going to start by first introducing. Am I still on, guys?
Yes.
Rest.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, the technical glitches. So I want to first start by introducing the lady that I'm going to be talking to today and who has so much experience in this area, Dr. Sherry Blake. I call her Dr. Sherry. I've known Dr. Sherry for a while, and this discussion has been a long time in coming for both of us. Dr. Sherry is one of the most highly sought after media experts and the areas of mental health in this country, specifically focused on people of color, but she has credentials beyond this. She's most known as the therapist for WeTV's longest standing African American reality series, Braxton Family Values. She has appeared as a guest expert on countless other shows, such as The Real Housewives of Atlanta, T.I. and Tiny Family, Hustle, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, Preachers of Atlanta, Little Women of Atlanta, and also on CNN, MSNBC, and HLN. So those at Coca-Cola who have their home in Atlanta are big admirers of Dr. Sherry. I'm looking forward to this partnership. She has also been featured on numerous national syndicated radio shows, including The Michael Baisden Show, Tom Joyner Morning Show, The Don Banks Morning Show, and Essence Live. Dr. Sherry is a licensed clinical psychologist with over 30 years and over 100,000 hours of direct and indirect service. Not only does she service celebrities, sports, and other stars, she also has a thriving practice of folks just like you and I. Dr. Sherry earned her PhD in clinical psychology from Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. Before that, she earned her master's degree from Vanderbilt, and she's also a HBCU graduate, graduating summa cum laude from Tennessee State University. So Dr. Sherry, who has also served on boards and has also been the president of the Metro Atlanta Health Association. That's quite a bit, and I'm just honored to be a part of this. So Dr. Sherry, let's start. And again, as I said, you and I have known each other for a while. We've talked about working together. And so if you hear the enthusiasm on my voice, it's all genuine. So are there any fun facts that you might want to share with our audience before we start our formal dialogue?
First of all, I wanted to say I'm very excited to be here, and you're right. We have been trying to get together for a long time, and I think this is long overdue, so I appreciate it. One thing that people may not know about me is that I love to cook. Bacon especially. I do a fantastic, if I must say so myself, a multi-flavor pound cake, and I love baking. So anytime you come by, just let me know, and I can whip that up in a heartbeat.
Okay. Well, you know my husband too, and I think he would argue with you about that pound cake. He thinks he has the very best in the world. Yeah, I got to get you a piece of that.
Yeah, we have to do a cook-off.
Exactly. So Dr. Sherry, as Adrienne said in her introduction, women of color generally put everyone first before themselves. So as we start this extremely important conversation about women of color and their allies, how would you as a mental health professional score mental health and importance to this audience? 1 being minimally important and 10 being the most important, and why?
Well, first of all, without question, it would be a 10 plus. And I say that because mental health is just as important as our physical health. But oftentimes in business, we get overwhelmed by so many things. We get busy with our business life and our personal life that we don't take care of ourselves. And when we don't take care of ourselves, we can't do a lot. And self-care starts with self. And you can't function at your best if you're depressed, if you're stressed, if you have anxiety, and you're dealing with a lot of other issues. So mental health impacts every aspect, not a little, every aspect of our functioning. So we have to deal with this.
So, Dr. Sherry, kind of, could you put that in the context? You're an entrepreneur yourself,
Absolutely.
and I assume that you've been an entrepreneur pretty much since you graduated, because I know that you've been a clinical psychologist for a long time. So, put that in the context of the women out in our audience who are aspiring entrepreneurs. Some are very successful, and I would imagine many are struggling with the combination of the tragedies that we've experienced over really the last 10 days.
There's so much going on and we're already overwhelmed. And the reality is that when we don't take care of ourselves, we're running on empty. We're exhausted. And so when something else comes on, we're wiped out. Because what do you do? What do you do when you have no reserve? So it's so important for women, and you're right, I've been in business for a long time, and you said I had over 30 years. I do, but I started at age 10. Don't forget that, okay? But the reality is we have to take care of ourselves. We have to understand what emotional health is about, what our physical and mental health and how that relates. And sometimes it's the stigma that keeps people from getting that help. And we have to deal with that.
So can you share with these entrepreneurs what some coping skills that you might use or that you would share with your clients on an ongoing basis as they are, not only managing their families' budgets, those women who have Black men in their lives who are concerned every day, and then at the same time managing the cash flow, applying for PPP. What are some coping skills that you might suggest that these entrepreneurs think about and consider?
First, you have to stop and understand your why. Why are you in business? Why are you doing? Because it's all overwhelming when we're struggling with just handling business. And as many of you know, running a business is not an easy task, especially if you're, a small business like most of us. So first thing I suggest you do is get some rest. You have to be able to think clearly. And coping, when we start talking about coping, we have to look at what are we doing? How are we coping at this point? And we need to shift some things. With self-care, and when I say self-care, I'm talking about more than a bubble bath. I'm talking about more than that. How do you take care of self first? And when we cope, we need to look at what are we doing? What are our priorities? What can we put in order? What takes priority? Some things are not as important as others. And what we do as women of color, we tend to take on everything. We tend to take on everything at once, and our mental health suffers. So what we have to do is take a step back, understand we have to put some things in. Do you take time to meditate? Do you take time to exercise, to eat healthy, to pray, to do whatever it is that means relaxation for you? Because you have to take care of yourself in terms of coping. And a lot of times we respond. We don't, we just respond to things without having a plan. And when we're running on empty, it is very hard for us to have that me time. And we have to schedule that like we do everything else. And with this COVID-19, it is really changing the way we look at our business. It's changing the way we do business. And one of the things I suggest and I've been dealing with this with a lot of entrepreneurs, how do you pivot? How do you take what you have and shift it? And you have to have a clear head to do that. Otherwise, you're just reacting. So part of the coping is looking at how you're doing things. What do you need to do differently? How can I take my skill set and use it in different ways? And coping also means the stress and the anxiety. You have to release that. You have to find a way to release it. And it's very unfortunate in the midst of everything we had with COVID-19, we have everything else that's going on with our society. And we're worried. I'm a Black mother. I am a parent, and I know it's very hard, but we have to put things in perspective. What can you control and what can't you control? And control those things that you can.
That's a good answer. I actually was just speaking to one of my young millennial next generation entrepreneurs who works with me. and she's very stressed out because she deals with diversity. She doesn't feel like she's being heard. And one of the things that I told her, and you made me think of it, is that, let's take that emotional energy that people attribute to us and really be very intentional about how you channel it to the positive and to those things that you can control. And also, at some point when you realize you can't control it, what I have found in my over 35 years of working, and I too started at 18, is that you've got to release it. You really have to release it, especially in this age of social distancing, when you're at home and you're driving your family crazy and they're driving you crazy. Actually, I have needed more vacation being at home than I normally need on a day-to-day. So, Dr. Sherry, that was a very eloquent response to how women entrepreneurs cope with these challenging times. So, can you share what you have found in your years of practice? Why mental health is a topic that women of color, people of color, really tend to avoid, and why that's dangerous?
One of the things that happens with us is that, the stigma of we're afraid of what people are going to say, how they're going to view us, how they're going to look. And I know you have, I have, and everybody out there have heard when mental health topic comes up, they say, I'm not crazy, I'm not sick, or they'll say something like, oh, girl, the only thing you need to do is pray about it. I believe in the power of prayer, but you have to pray and do. So you can pray and get help too. And the reality is that a lot of people do not understand mental health. And it's a frightening topic. It's very scary. And what I want people to know, everyone has mental health, but everyone is not mentally ill. Just like everyone has a physical health, but everyone is not physically ill. It's only a part of our health. Mental health is your health, and you have to take care of it just like you do your physical health. And without that, a lot of things go undone, and we do, again, run on empty with no reserve. And we have to have that reserve. We have to take the time to take care of ourselves. But understand, regardless of what people say, you're responsible for yourself. And there is no shame in getting help.
Yeah, I think I may have shared with you, you may not remember, that when I heard that you were working with reality folks, I'm kind of one of those sort of bougie kind of, don't talk to me about that. But the one thing that I will say as a personal observation, the good thing about those programs, and there are many good things, especially when I see folks like you on it, is that it does allow the culture in the community, the folks that you and you do, but folks like those of us who made it, so to speak, don't interact and who do avoid those mental health conversations because of what you said. But when they see celebrities that they admire or they follow or they hate, engaging in that, it really does liberate you to know. I actually had a young friend, a young family member say to me, "Oh yes, I've been doing counseling all the time. It's just a necessary part of my life." And that she heard that through something that she probably watched on TV. And I say more power to reality TV for that reason alone.
Absolutely. I want to add.
You mentioned. Go ahead.
I just want to add one thing to that. I started doing reality TV because I'm a believer. You have to reach people wherever they are. And I don't care what my message is. It's okay to get help. I don't care what the situation is and how crazy the situation. And there's a lot of crazy situations on reality TV. But my message is it's okay to get help. And help is available. So if people hear that, then my period is on TV is good.
I am a firm believer. I was raised by a mental health professional. And even if I do think I'm crazy from time to time. But even if you are self-aware to know you are, it's good to talk to someone who you trust, who can give you advice on coping, as opposed to talking to some of your crazy friends who have their own issues and they're trying to consult you. So that's just a takeaway, a moment of being real, not representing the Coca-Cola company necessarily in that statement. So, so anyway, Dr. Sher, I'm so glad I got to talk to you. You know, you're really one of my faves.
Right.
You mentioned COVID-19, and I kind of shared notes, and you actually said that women of color are likely to feel and experience COVID-19 in a greater way. And my assumption is that you probably, and we talked about this before the whole world blew up in our faces. So you said that, and I'm imagining that that statement is true, even for the situation that we're experiencing now. This situation. Talk a little bit about why or why not that's true, but I do
Well,
believe you think it is true. So talk about
oh,
why you
I
think it's
do
true.
believe it's true because, many of us, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, we run on empty. We overdo, we take care of everyone else except ourselves. And so when COVID-19 hit, we're empty. We have no reserves. So what do? And one of the things I say a lot with women of color, we can only be depressed between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. because we're taking care of everybody else. It's not until it's time to go to bed and the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. We pop up and we do it all over again. But the problem is, what happens between 10 p.m. and 6? We may cry because we're stressed. We may cry because we're depressed. We may be in a bad relationship. You may have a partner or a husband or a spouse or someone in the house to, quote, help you, but it doesn't do any good if they don't understand where you're coming from emotionally. So when we pop up, the problem with the 6 p.m., which most women, a lot of us understand that concept because we put on that happy face and put on the makeup and we keep going. What happens though when you get up the next day? How do you show up in the world? How do you show up at work? Do you bring that depression with you? Do you have that anxiety? Because it doesn't go away. And there's a difference between being refreshed and refueled. Oftentimes we get sleep and we may feel refreshed, but we're not refueled because we're not putting back into ourselves. We're not investing time into us. And that's how you heal. That's how you grow. That's how you move on. That's how you're able to make clear, wise decisions. And that's why when COVID-19 happens, we can pivot, we can shift, we can look at what do we need to do next.
Thank you,
Does that
Dr.
make sense?
Sherry. And we've got a so did I interrupt you too soon? I know we've got a little bit of a lag.
No.
Were you
I
saying
can talk
something?
all day.
Okay. Yeah, and me too. I'm getting the questions from the audience, and we're going to turn to those soon. And I really want to acknowledge our allies who are in the audience. Those are women out there who are not of color, who are our allies. We've got a lot of men out there, and I think that what you've said really applies to us specifically as it relates to this topic, but those allies are out there, and I really want to just tell them at this moment, we really do appreciate them. We know their hearts are aching too, and they just don't know what to do. And I say, do what you think is best, because to be honest, as a Black person, I can't fix racism. But I do appreciate you, and I hope that this is helping you as well. And I'm going to say, Dr. Sherry, and the reason why I led that way is that really this is a question, I think, for women of color, but also our ally female friends out. And do you feel women have different leadership expectations than their male counterparts? And if you do, kind of tell us how that impacts mental health, and how if there are coping mechanisms that you haven't mentioned that might help that.
Oh, absolutely. As women, we take on so much. We work all day, we work in our business, we grow our business, but we actually work 2 jobs because we have to come home and we work. We take care of the kids, we cook, we clean, we go to Kroger's or wherever we get groceries from. We do it all. And in doing that, we again are not taking care of ourselves. And what happens in that situation is that we are drained. We are emotionally exhausted. So for us, the males, like, as I mentioned, they may be there or your partner may be there, but if you can't get the help you need, especially from an emotional level, you have to step back. One of the coping skills you do with that, once you realize what you're dealing with, You have to decide what is priority. A lot of women really fight for this idea, and they have sold us this idea, society, that we have to balance everything. There is no such thing. I've given up on that. What you have to do is figure out how to blend, because balance means you have to give everything equal share time. And that's not going to happen, because some things are more important than other things at any given time. You have to rank your priorities. You have to take care of yourself in the process of taking care of everyone else. Because when you go down, what's going to happen? So we have to understand that when we cope, we have to look at our priorities. We have to look at what's important, because when you're taking everything on, everything does not have the same equal sense of importance. And we have to let go of some things.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to some of the audience questions, Dr.
Okay.
Sherry. And I want to say to the audience, if I don't get you, I'm trying to go in the order of receipt. But to be honest with you, we've had a little bit of a technical problem. So some of the questions are being texted to me. So if I don't, it's not that I'm skipping your question for any reason other than I'm coping and adjusting to what's been placed ahead of me. So Dr. Sherry, we have a question, and it says, what would your advice be? What would be the advice you would give to new business owners during the pandemic?
Take this time. My answer would be, take this time and really look at what you're doing in business. Look at your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And get to know yourself. Get to know, what am I doing? And you may have to visit me on my virtual couch to help you understand yourself in terms of this, but how do you take it on and manage? How do you manage? And with a new business, it's a great opportunity to look at where you're going. And maybe you need to shift earlier than later.
Okay, sounds good. The next question is, Dr. Sherry, can you please share some wisdom, resources that can help us stay motivated and reduce the stigma of asking for help?
I am so glad you asked that question. Stigma is a big issue. The more we talk about it, and the more you see it on TV, reality shows, or whatever, it's easier to talk about. And don't feel bad in talking about it. What I suggest you do is have conversations with your loved ones. Have conversations in terms of how you feel. And keep in mind, just because you may be down, it doesn't mean you're mentally ill. And even if there's mental illness, there's treatment. You do not have to walk around being depressed. You don't have to walk around being so anxious that you're about to jump out of your skin. There's help available. And if you're in a bad relationship, trust me, you can deal. So it's just a matter of getting help and understand that it's available, and don't worry about what other people say or think, because this is about you and your health.
That's right. So Dr. Sherry, this is a question that made me pause. We as Black women have always had to move forward in trauma. We need to grieve too. How do we do that without feeling guilty of feeling guilty of keep on keeping on? I think you get the gist of it.
I do. And that's a great question, because right now the world is grieving. We're all grieving. We're grieving loss of loved ones. We're grieving what's happening in society. We're grieving the loss of our jobs or the loss of our lifestyles as we've known. We're grieving even how we even bury our loved ones. So grief is a thing that is a personal thing, but we share a lot in common in terms of the elements. No one should tell you how long you should feel a certain way. So the question comes in terms of grieving, yeah, we have to push on. Yeah, we have to go on, but you have to accept the fact it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling on a given day. So if you feel sad, cry. It's okay with crying. Some people say, women, we have to be strong. We can't show our emotions. No, we're human, and it's okay. Just understand what it's about and where it's coming from. And
so,
then keep
Dr.
on.
Sherry, I agree 100%. This actually question came in just now, but it really is related to what you were just talking about. The audience member says, how do we know when we are fully healed from trauma? What should that look like? And how can one heal if we're perpetually traumatized?
We're
That's a lot.
constantly traumatized. That is a lot. And in this day and time, there's so many triggers from what has happened in the past. We're being re-traumatized. And, trauma is and healing of trauma, it's a process. And it doesn't mean when we see things, we don't have triggers that remind us, but it doesn't take us back to the same place. So part of that healing comes in being able to recognize what has happened in the past, but when we see something, we don't go back to the past and live in it. You may go back and say, oh my God, even now, I am just like everybody else, absolutely traumatized and horrified about what's going on, but I know I can't stay there. I can't stay with what happened, 20 years ago or 30 years. We have to look at this is what's happening now. What are we going to do differently? And how do we move forward with an action plan? And that's where I think that, it may not be something you do nationally, but it's definitely something you can do individually and join in with others because we do have to move on.
Okay. Dr. Sherry, this is, I think this question is quite interesting. It's not directly related to entrepreneurship, but it is very related to, I'm missing it. It's very related to the justice issues that we're dealing
Right.
with. And the question is, let me see if I can find it. What is your suggestion on getting people with mental health issues out of the criminal prison system and into mental health programs? And I'm asking it just because I do think it's one of those perplexing issues that's a symptom of what we're seeing.
That is a big question, and it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of work. What we may not be aware of, the prison system has become one of the main sources for mental health services. Do you realize they have a large mental health component? Not all prisoners are getting that help, but they have integrated that. That is good, and it is dangerous as well, because again, we have to reform a lot of things in this society. The criminal justice system is one of those. So what I suggest you do is keep in mind that this is a process. It didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be undone. But if you get out and vote, and I say that with a big V, vote, because we have to be a part of change. You can't look at it from the sideline and say this is what needs to be done unless you're willing to get involved and make a difference. Same thing with me, same thing with you, same thing with everybody. We have to get involved. We can no longer afford to stand by. I don't care if it's mental illness. I don't care because this is a trying time for those that are suffering from mental illness. And it's not 1 out of 5. Can you imagine 1 out of 5 Americans deal with mental illness? So it's not uncommon. So it's going to be in your prison system as well as in general population. But what are we going to do to make the change to get the help people need? Because help is available.
I got a couple more questions, Dr. Sherry, here. I'm going to start wrapping it up.
Okay.
So one of our audience members says, as a single mother of 3 small kids, it's hard to find space for self-mental care. I'm cooking, I'm homeschooling, working from home, and working to pay bills. It's not easy to find the space. I'm struggling. Any thoughts or suggestions, Dr. Sherry?
You're not alone. First of all, you're not alone. It is very difficult, but what you have to do is schedule your me time and some time for yourself, just like you schedule everything else. Maybe it means putting the kids to bed at a regular time, and your me time has to come after 9 or 10 o'clock. Maybe it means that you structure things if you have a support system, you utilize that support system to build in a wall, to build in something that you can do to help yourself clear your head. Get up a little bit earlier, pray, meditate, do whatever you need to do to find some time for you, because that is critical. It is very important.
So, Dr. Sherry, and as I said, I'm wrapping up now.
Okay.
And I have been reading a lot about the impact on young people, this next generation of young people. They have been left with a lot of debt. We've got we've got the impact of the protests and the impact that's having on them, COVID-19, and it seems as though suicide is at a height. And I would imagine that's also with women of color and entrepreneurs. What are you seeing in your practice, and how are you helping people cope around this whole plague of suicide and what's going on in the world? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yes, we unfortunately we have seen an increase in suicide. We've seen an increase in abuse. We've seen an increase of a lot because the stressors are so great right now. What I suggest you do is have open conversations with your loved ones. And it's not a conversation where you tell them what they should be doing or what they could have been doing or what they would have, should have. No, it's a real conversation where you say, I'm really concerned about how are you? What's going on? Talk to them and listen before they get to the point of wanting to commit suicide. If you find someone there's resources, go out, call 1-800, the suicide line, get the help you need because help is available and you do not have to do this alone. Very important. You are not alone and we're in this together, but help is available. So don't ever think that you have to, and it goes back to the stigma, be embarrassed, be ashamed to talk about it because you have to break that barrier of stigma to get the help you need or get the help you need for your loved ones. And it's out there.
And this last question from our audience is a perfect tie into what you just talked about in terms of accessibility and availability. They're asking, can you discuss the options of affordability of mental health options and access? And they did not say this, but especially in light of all the focus on Obamacare being almost dismantled. And I think it included mental health service. So can you talk to that and how you might be supporting your patients around that or advice you're giving them?
Absolutely. There are resources in the community through the county government, through the city government, and you have to reach out and find the resources because you're right. Insurance companies are cutting back. They're cutting things out, but you have to demand that. You have to ask for that. And there are places that will take a sliding scale fee. There are places that will do therapy even free. You know, you can go through the university centers where people are being trained, but you can also go through different community resources that offer support groups. They offer things on different levels. Personally, I give back all the time. I give back in terms of having so many pro bono slots each year. And so everybody can't call me at once. And you know that it may be filled, but the reality is I give back. We all have to give back. So if you're hurting and somebody you know is hurting, if I can't help you, I can definitely direct you to someone. And there are psychological associations out there where you can reach out for help too. And they're in pockets, but you have to do the work of reaching out. So don't give up. Just remember that it's your health, just like physical health. You wouldn't give up if you had pneumonia. You wouldn't say, well, I got, really bad pneumonia. I can't breathe. So I guess I'll just sit here because I may not be able to pay for it. It's about priority. Get help.
Okay, Dr. Sherry, I so enjoyed this. I mean, I really, really did. I can't tell you how much. And I've just been pinged that our special guest is ready, Miss Taraji P. Henson. And so before I shift there, is there any last thoughts that you have that you might like to share in 30 seconds with our audience?
I want to say thank you for having me, but most of all, understand that mental health is your health. It is so important. You can find me in terms of you need to sit on my virtual couch at info@askdrsherry.com or look at my website, www.askdrsherry.com, or follow me on social media because I'll answer your questions. I will get back with you. And on social media is at Ask Dr. Sherry. So I say thank you for the organizations for putting this on because we need help and you're not alone. We're out there, we're available. Just reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sherry. And I too would say, If anybody wants to reach the Coca-Cola company who has products that you think that we're interested in, I'm on LinkedIn, and you can ask anyone that knows me. I do respond back, maybe not as quickly as I did when I started 40 years ago, but I do respond back. So without further ado, I'm going
Thank
to
you.
move the program along. And, I know everyone is waiting for our special guest, Ms. Taraji P. Henson. But first, I want to introduce Ms. Nick Kober, who will be leading the conversation with Ms. Henson. Nick is an executive coach and business strategist who specializes in developing management, legal, and branding strategies for leaders in the business world. She's a member of the National Women's Business Council, a board member for the Enterprising Women Foundation, and Emerging Leaders Instruction for the Small Business Administration. And I just found out she's one of my sorors of Delta Sigma Theta. So Nick, please take it. And it's been a pleasure talking to Dr. Sherry, and I'm so looking forward to Ms. Henson. She's one of those women that I really do admire and look to as a role model.
Wonderful. Thank you, Therese. Therese and Dr. Sherry, you all have blessed us here today. So many wonderful nuggets, and just so grateful that you all are out on the front line, really helping from within systems to help us all as women. So now I have the amazing pleasure of, so we all think we know Taraji. She has been so vulnerable over her career, and I just want to give you a little bit of background on her. I did a little bit of research and fun facts, right? We have so much going on in the world today. We really want to take this moment to learn more about our homegirl. We all claim her as our own, but Taraji was born and raised in Washington, D.C. on September 11th, little known fact. She is a Howard University graduate, HU, as a drama major. And we all know that she has blessed us as an award-winning actress in both TV and movies for many, many years, and brought to life many iconic roles, such as Hidden Figures, Katherine Jackson, and of course, our beloved Cookie in Empire. What many of you may not know, and what we're going to talk about here today amongst our business community, is she too is a new entrepreneur. She has a line of hair products helping us, TPH by Taraji Hair Care Products. She's also so important, and we're so proud of her as being the founder of the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, which we're going to talk about more right now. So will you all join me in welcoming Ms. Taraji Hope Pensa Love Henson. How are you, my friend? I love that. I love that you are hope and love all in one. I love it. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm really good. I just want to say thank you to the Minority Business Development Agency and the National Minority Supplier Development Council for inviting me here today. You look so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you to the virtual community of minority women, mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, business leaders, nation builders, and allies. Thank you for showing up today and every day in the midst of challenge and uncertainty. And my prayer is that everyone is well and safe during these truly unprecedented times. While I'm not physically, share space with you, you know that I'm emotionally holding space for you today. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, there's not chaos all around us. I won't ignore the fact that there are viruses eating at the fabric of our humanity right now. And I am deeply affected by what's happening in our community and our country right now. I too am a mother, a daughter, and I'm a nation builder. So I just want to say this to all the dreamers and revolutionaries who may be just beginning your journey into the business world and who are faced with unexpected realities of a lockdown, a pandemic, protests, and global unrest. You might be contemplating whether you should stay in the game or close shop. And by shop, I mean your facility, your mind, your body, your soul. You may be wondering if you have what it takes to weather the storm, or did you just cut your losses? why you still can't. But I'm going to share something with you today that always reminds me of my strength whenever I feel lost, unseen, or devalued, as some of us may be feeling right now. Adam Clayton Powell Jr., the first African American to represent the state of New York in Congress, gave a powerful speech to his congregation. The people in his district had been complaining about what they didn't have: no education, no work, how hard it is out here. This was back in the 60s, you know, sounds like today, right? But he said, you're a human being and you know what you've got. You've got in your hand the power to use your vote and to use even those few cents you get from welfare to spend them only where you want to spend them. So look at that. And then he continued with this. A young slave boy stood one day before the greatest ruler of his day. And God said to Moses, what's in your hand? And Moses said, Lord, only I've got a stick. I only got a stick. That's all, he said. Well, let me use what's in your hand. And God used that slave boy with a stick in his hand to divide the Red Sea, march through a wilderness, bring water out of rocks, manna from heaven, and bring his people to the freedom land. And so I ask you the same question. What's in your hand right now, today? Look, I moved to California with $700 and a toddler. I worked as a special education teacher to provide for my son, and I wondered sometimes how I would pay rent. Did I make enough money this week to keep the daggone lights on? I had to find childcare in between work and auditions. It would take years before somebody saw my potential. But what I did know, I knew that I had something in my hand. And growing up in Southeast DC, it wasn't always clear, you know, because little Black girls in the ghetto wasn't expected to have something to offer. But thankfully, I was reminded by my teachers, by my parents, by my family. They would say, you got something. So now I didn't know what that something was, you know, at that time. I wouldn't figure that out until I had to use it. My voice, my faith, my talent, my mama's vulnerability, my dad's straight talk. I had courage in my hand. That is my something. The courage to stand up in the face of injustice. The courage to give voice to the voiceless. The courage to try and fail and try again. So I'm going to share this last verse with you from Adam Clayton Powell. God said, what's in your hand? All I've got is a slingshot. And the enemies of my people are great and big and more numerous than we are. Well, little David, go down to the brook and pick out a few stones and come on back. Close your eyes if you want to and pull back that slingshot and let it go. And David killed the biggest enemy, the leader of the giants, against his people, and his people became free. Just letting God got a stone in his hand. And a few years passed, David was king. So what's in your hand, mothers, daughters, business leaders? There will always be giants bigger than you. No matter what is going on around you, open your clenched fists and remember what you have in your hand, whatever that may be. When you think it's all over, when you think your family is falling apart, your business is sinking, the world seems to be crumbling everywhere you turn, you have something in your hand that can change the course of time. Use it to build a new nation, to serve a cause greater than you, because this thing is not about you or me. Use it to liberate those with clenched fists who haven't yet figured out that they too have the power in their hands. I just want to thank you again for having me, and I look forward to it.
I love it. Girl, you got me over here like wanting I got questions for you. Don't go nowhere. I got questions. You're just a blessing, in your authenticity. You shoot us all right at our soul. I really appreciate you. So my first question is about your organization, okay? We know that we just finished with May, which was Mental Health Awareness Month. I want to know, tell our audience about your organization and why was it important for you to found it? And then what are some key metrics and facts that your organization, that you're proud that you've risen to the surface to share with us about?
Well, I started my foundation because I knew that we were suffering. And I know the stigma, the heavy weighted stigma around mental health in our community. And it was made very clear to me when I was time to look for a therapist for myself and my son. And, looking for a culturally competent therapist became an issue, an obstacle. And I started talking to my best friend, Tracy J. Jenkins, who runs my foundation. And I said, that why that is because we don't talk about it in our homes. And I said, well, everybody's been asking me, do I have a charity? This is it. Because I felt it. I got a chill over my body. She did too. And I was like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to eradicate the stigma around mental health. So we started the foundation, the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, which is named after my father, a Vietnam vet, who, had his issues with mental health, but he wore his heart on his sleeve. I remember Washington Post did a interview with me years ago when I did Hustle and Flow, and they talked to my dad, and he talked about his mental issues in that particular report, but interview. So I started, and I figured what a great way to keep his name alive and his legacy, and I thought it would be more appealing if it was named after a Black man, because that's what I'm trying to penetrate, really.
I hear you. Awesome. How about in terms of women? And I don't know if you heard all of the previous Q&A, but they were talking about how women in particular, especially with the issues that we're dealing with in the workplace, right? How what are some tools? We all, I'm going to talk about some of your characters, but one of the iconic roles is obviously Katherine Johnson, and how she overcame so many obstacles in the workplace that really challenged her, and she rose up. Do you have any advice for our audience members who are also experiencing, it may be injustice, it may be not getting that promotion? What are some strategies that you would give to them that it touches on them emotionally and a professional level?
We always have to remind ourselves to breathe. When like the wall closing in, you can't amp up. You have to stop, root yourself, and breathe. You have to speak out. You can't keep it in. Use your voice because you have one. And if we're going to set the generation behind us free, we have to use our voice. If you have a story, you must tell it. Just bring your best to the table, like Catherine did. She wasn't a very outspoken woman. She was a quiet storm. What she had in her hand was her pen, was her pencil. So, you have to speak up, but breathe, collect yourself at times like that. Breathe, collect yourself, and then speak up, stand up. Because you're standing up for yourself. You're standing up for those who have stood up for you and those coming behind you.
Have your tools for standing up changed or modified from, the girl you described to us when you went out to Hollywood, and was hustling, to who you are now? Have your tools changed?
I wouldn't say my tools have changed. As I've gotten older, I've learned how to fight strategically. Coming from the hood, you get emotional, but that's why you say breathe. You got to collect yourself, because when you call yourself a businesswoman, there's certain language you have to use. You can't just pop off. Now, sometimes you might need to pop off, but
let somebody know.
Yeah, we're humans and we snap. We have our breaking points, but you strive to be your better self, right? So that's why you have to breathe to collect yourself so you don't snap. But I wouldn't say I changed much. I just, like I said, I learned how to fight strategically, and I learned how to use the word no. No is very powerful.
Setting boundaries.
If you're not being respected, if your talents aren't being respected or cherished, then no, you don't get to suck my energy.
Yes. Next topic is about Me Too challenges, right? And again, one of my favorite all-time fighting lines. I'm not going to shame myself too badly, but all my life I had to fight. I had, Sophia breaks it down, color purple. But you, as a woman we all admire in both the entertainment and the entrepreneurship space, what types of tools, when you feel like a boundary has been crossed, maybe it's a male female boundary or something, but what are some tips, some real strategies for a woman who is in that space? You said you have strategy. What are some of your strategies for dealing with very uncomfortable workplace instances?
Well, if I have to work there, and that we all spend most of our time, we spend more time in the workplace than we do at home with our own families. And I'll be damned if I'm going to be oppressed in the workplace, So just speak up right away. Don't hold things in. Don't wait till 5 years later. Speak up right away. Take notes. Take notes of instances. Have your case so sound packed.
Yes.
When you go in to speak, I don't think your voice trembles or shakes. Remember, you're standing up not just for yourself. You're standing up for so many people, and just your strength you never know who else might speak up in the office. You might be bringing down the mighty giant.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? But like my grandmother said, squeaky wheel gets fixed.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you gave them such good advice about documenting. One of my hats that I wear is an attorney, and I'm always called on to talk about, I said, somebody said something, did something to me inappropriately, but I'm afraid. What you said is set your boundaries and document and tell somebody too, in the moment. Don't be afraid to tell the person that they violated you, but go ahead.
You have to fight for yourself. Yeah. So document. Today is what, June, whatever, 2020.
Yes.
I told such and such that I did not feel comfortable with this conversation. Noted. Right? I already said something. Now, July something 2020. He said this to me after keep your notes. Now that empowers you. That gives you your voice.
Yes, it does.
When you feel powerless, you have what's in your hand, like Catherine did, a pen, a pencil.
Yeah. Love it. Yes. No, you're right. That's wonderful. I'm going to now not focus just on the workplace, but I want to talk to you about the entrepreneurship game. All right. As they mentioned, I sit on the National Women's Business Council. So we're an advisory board that counsels the SBA, the White House, and Congress on women's business issues. And right now we are at another crisis of like epic proportions in terms of businesses, women businesses, minority businesses really thinking that they're non-essential and they are struggling and they're going under. And I always say that, I share my story. A decade ago, I went through the exact same thing. I had a day spa and hair salon chain right here in the nation's capital and lost everything, filed bankruptcy, foreclosure, all of the things that we fear the most. But I do stand here to say you go through it. You don't stay in it. And as your name pronounces, you want to be a sign of hope. What kind of hope can you share with women who are the stylists, right? Are the lawyers that are giving out advice and their clients just are not there? What are some tools that you can maybe give them for emotionally enduring and then going through to get to the other side?
You have to allow yourself to be right where you are.
Yes.
And I think this is a time right now that is exposing to all of us, especially strong Black women, that that's a myth. And that's going to take us some time to dismantle that, but humanizes us, right? So now we're in these breaking human moments, right? Where we feel like we're losing everything, right? So you have to allow yourself to be right where you are. Let all that fear take you over. It's going to come over. You're going to feel like you have nothing left. Just let it come to you. And then through all, you meditate. You know that, what keeps me going is that God woke me up this morning. A lot of people didn't wake up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have a reason to be here. I have a reason to be here. There's a reason. I have a purpose, because if you're not supposed to be here, with all your woes and all your troubles, with all that cookie crumbling all around you, you are still here standing with something in your hand to do something. The great thing about hair and nails is that's a trade. Do you know I had a manicurist that I followed for like 10, 20 years? She could be doing nails out the back of her car. I don't care.
So you stopped her too? Yeah, I do that with my makeup person.
Yeah,
I stop. I'm coming to get you, girl.
That's a trade. You can take that anywhere. So that's your strength right there. So what you have in your hands, you still have your tools.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Yes. And trying to and know that this is temporary, go through, what we did. You're speaking about the stylist, the nail artist. I have a special place for them because I was in that industry for 10 years. And we help them to kind of reshape, maybe do online services and, keep in contact with their clients, helping with hair maintenance, but being resourceful, even when things are looking shaky, being resourceful. You do have a trade. You just have to repurpose it, right?
Yeah, and this is a great time to try some new styles. Try some new. Look, I'm not a stylist, but I have a salon and I've been playing it die because I have if you talk to anybody on my glam squad, I love them dearly because I am nothing without them.
Yes.
And
sure, they bring, no, I disagree. You're a whole lot, but they bring out their best pretty self. So I understand, yes. And I did not have my glam squad, so I'm kicking it doing my own today. So one question, and I'm a dovetail. I'm gonna put myself out there for a minute because this is something we want to teach our women, our sisters that are watching. In February of this year, I was just going in for a routine mammogram, actually just a routine physical, and they found cancer. And so from February to now, chemotherapy changed, coronavirus changed, civil unrest, wondering about your business. All of these things were going on, but I want to stay on the part of the physical health. I too characterize myself as a strong Black woman, but when your physical health is taken from you, you literally have to learn how to surrender. It was so unfamiliar to me to let people love me, to let people help me, to surrender that title. And actually, I take that back, not surrender the title, because you're still strong when you ask for help, right? You're still, you're just in a different position. You're allowing people to restore you. And so my question to you, what did you want to say? What did you want to say?
Go ahead. I will let you finish.
I wanted to say I did find that strength had a new name. It meant being vulnerable and not doing anything, and definitely relying on my faith. When your mortality is at issue, you start to look to the future, like, how long am I going to live? What the quality? And that's where your faith really comes in, and is that, like, I don't know, what my end date is. That's God's plan, right? But to your point, I woke up this morning, so he must have something for me to do today. I wanted to ask you, what moments have you ever had moments where you too have found that being strong means falling back and letting people help you? And where does your faith come into play when you're dealing with physical and emotional challenges, either in the workplace or personally?
Well, okay, so let's start from the first part of the question. Well, first of all, people misconstrue what strength looks like.
Yes.
They think strength is I'm mentally strong, nothing hurts me, I can push through anything. My son gets murdered on the street, I can forgive, and I'm a strong woman and I can get through that. No, you cannot. It's trauma. And the strength lies in the vulnerability. You said that. And I just wish my people would understand that. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be vulnerable. That's where the strength is, in the vulnerability, because in the vulnerability is where your walls come down. That's where you really can affect someone. Being strong is not going to teach me anything. It's going to teach me that you have no feelings and that I shouldn't feel for you, because why? You don't need help. You're strong.
Right, right.
So the truth is in the vulnerability. And then the second question was, what was the second question? The second part of the question?
Just in terms of your faith.
Oh, my faith. So then you always get to a point where it's too much, right? You've done everything you can do, right? You've done the breath exercises, you've written down everything, all the micro that work, but it still feels like the walls are closing in. That's when I go into my faith. Because when that starts to happen and the wall starts to creep in, that's when fear is creeping in. And then that's when you have to decide, which side am I choosing right now?
Yes. You better tell it. Yes. It's not the same.
Yeah.
He did not give us a spirit of what? Of fear.
Yeah,
so
it can't coexist.
It's true. It's very true. You make in every, when you feel that fear rise up, you acknowledge it. You're aware of it. Yes.
You have to acknowledge it right away, because that thing will seep inside of you and take over.
Yes.
You'll wake up with anxiety attacks, panic, I'm not saying that that's the answer to anxiety or panic attacks, but it can help when you have that deep faith and knowing that no matter what, you're going to be okay.
How do you personally know if something is, I'm having a downtime, I'm stressed in this moment, or something where, hey, I am struggling, I need help, I need more than, reading something or meditation that's just not working? How do are there any tips?
When I start to feel, when I'm not excited about the things that I love, I'm a pretty bubbly person. I've been told I'm the perfect party favor. So whenever I don't feel I feel dark, or I just don't, feel outside of myself and I'm just not my happy, bubbly self, that's when I know I need to reach outside of myself.
Awesome. That's good. That's good. I have 500 questions for you. Not really, but we have a lot of questions. And I know we're running time on short, but you have blessed us all. So you ready for a couple of them? They want to know about your business. All right. There were a couple of questions like, what was that process like? Why did you pick, the product? Why did you start with the products that you did?
Well, I have, like I said, I've always been into cosmetology. I missed cosmetology school by 1 year, so I didn't pursue it, but I think that was just God. I was supposed to be an actress. But I always loved hair and nails, and I never let go of it. That's actually was my side hustle in school. But when I got to Hollywood and I started working a lot, I noticed my hair was being stressed, and I didn't want to stress it, so I started weaving. And then it became about scalp care. How do you take care of your scalp while you're in an install? And I didn't see anything on the market. And so that's when I was like, I have to create it like all Black girls do for our hair, right? We had to create it because it was out there.
I love it. I love it. Let me see what we got here. We got here. So we have, they're going so fast that I can't even read them, but I will give you, Nia asks us, great motivating words, Taraji, I'm hanging in there to grow. And just as I read it, it left. I mean, they are rolling, girl. Let me see. Oh my gracious. Wait. Okay. I apologize to my tech team. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to do it real quick. Perhaps one of the greatest tragedies in our society is the isolation. It just left again. I apologize. So she's struggling with isolation right now. Any thoughts about that?
Well, that's why we started our virtual fundraiser, the COVID campaign, fundraising campaign on social media, because we know people are suffering in isolation. And a lot of people, I have a girlfriend, she lives alone. I can't even imagine, Well, we've helped like 1,500 people get help. You get 5 free sessions. All you have to, and we're asking the public for help. We're close to raising over $500,000, but when we first launched this campaign, the website crashed. Our site crashed. We had to let it reboot. It took us 30 minutes to reboot. So the demand out there it's crazy. And there is no other we are right now the forefront leaders in the mental health place for African American, for brown and black people. We stand at the front line saying all of this money goes to us, because you can give all people money, right? But we always are left behind. So that's why we started this foundation and this effort right now, because we know we are suffering the most. So all you have to do, people out there that want to help, text no stigma to 707070. You can donate anything. We got 1,300 people.
Hey guys, we have Taraj. Did we lose Taraj? Did we lose Taraji? My tech team.
We are.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Woo. All right. You there, girl? You was on a roll. Oh, where'd you go? Come back, Taraji.
Here. I'm here.
All right, baby.
Yes.
Okay. We have a couple more questions. All right. One is, women of color have been pigeonholed into the superwoman complex, thus not giving us room to be vulnerable. So one person asked, can you describe vulnerability? Because it literally was something she was like, what does that mean? What does that look like to you? Isn't that powerful? Like, what does that look like? What makes you so enabled to be vulnerable, you personally?
I pay attention to my body. I don't shut down that frog in my throat. I let that frog in my throat produce that emotion, which is going to be tears, because I have to. I don't know. That's what makes me the artist that I am, but I am an artist and I use my body as an instrument. So for me, I can do it because I get paid to do it. I have to do it. So if I'm not dealing with my emotions in my life in real time, then I'm going to miss the character's life, because I'm not going to know how to tap into my vulnerability. So how will I be able to, the character's vulnerability? And vulnerability means whatever you're feeling at that moment, let it wash over you. Be vulnerable enough to say, I'm scared. Be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know what to do next. Be vulnerable enough to say, no, I can't. It's too much. I don't have the capacity right now.
Yes. So vulnerability is truth, emotional truth. What you just described was emotional truth, the ability and to deal with whatever the consequence of being truthful is, because you're not putting someone else first. You're not afraid of someone else's reaction to your truth. Your truth is what you value premierly, right?
You know why? Because when you're being strong, you're robbing yourself. You are telling people that I don't matter, my feelings don't matter, I'm so strong, you can shoot me right now and I'm going to get up like Wolverine and keep going. It makes people not feel for you. That's why women, Black women, women of color, go to the hospital and they leave us on the gurney. Oh, she's strong, they can handle it. When white women come in, oh, they're fragile, we have to fix them. But what about our fragility? What about us? But that's because we've been living up to this strong, I can take care of 10 children and raise them by myself and work 5-10 jobs and nothing's wrong with me mentally. That is so dysfunctional.
It's true. And you know what? From generation to generation, I'm sure you found this. we're a lot more, this generation is a lot more transparent about that. There are generations before us, they never talked about anything. Even if we saw it in the real moment, violations, stress, kids see everything. But the generations, our mothers' mothers, they just were stoic. And so, I think you're really at the forefront, continuing that transparency so that the generation behind us uses that as a tool. That's standard. That's not an aberration, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, you can't take care of your body from the neck down. Right. Your brain makes everything function. You need your brain. You have to take care of it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I wish people would stop looking at therapists as like this sterile place where it's just, that means I'm crazy. They're going to lock me up in the jacket. And we all hear voices, What you do, the voices you hear, some hear them louder than others. I'm not trying to, minimalize mental illnesses. But I just want people to know that you're not alone. We are all traumatized. Trauma has been passed down generation. So what I need people, and especially my people, to look at therapy as is that connecting the dot to your goal. Like your therapist is like your life coach. Like I said, I always hear this phrase being, I'm a work in progress. Really? Did you call your therapist today?
So a couple of people asked, this is a stressor point, social media. Social media, can you talk about it as like anxiety producing? A lot of people have said, they're like, me personally, I don't want to do it, but for my business, I have to. Maybe it's the, comparison game. Have you ever had any, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's what they're getting at. Like, do you have tools? Do you limit your social media intake, even as the one we're all loving on and watching all your beautiful dresses and premieres and things? Do you limit your intake?
I limit myself, and that's probably why I don't have 100 million, followers, because I have to leave some of me to me. Yeah, I can't tell you everything I'm doing all the time. That's right. Much work. I really love living in the moment. And when I find myself having to post, it's like, wait, let me do that. Okay. It's so much. That one post in and of itself is stressful. Yeah. So I limit myself because it will force you to compare, And of course, people are living their best lives on social media. They're not going to put their struggles up. They're not going to post when things aren't right. So why compare yourself? Let me see your other days. Let me peep in that window.
Exactly. I was gonna do the reveal, but I was like, we not that close. We good. We want to show up for our booth. So they're about to put a hit on me because they have told me the last question for the last 5 minutes. So hey, listen, you are all our best friends in our heads and our hearts. The strength and vulnerability that emanate from you and your performances are tools for us all. And your transparency about your father and the courage you demonstrated to create your foundation makes us all so proud. Thank you so much for your time here today.
Thanks for having me. Be well, stay safe, and be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable. All right, sister. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to our MBDA, amazing, extraordinaire, Mr. Theta. Thank you so much for putting this all together here today, my friend. It's over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you to you, Nick. Wow. I mean, this session has really breathed life into me, and hopefully it hit all of you right where you needed it to be. From the conversation with Therese and Dr. Sherry, we talked about self-care and taking care of yourself first, and how to release that stress and those emotions, and letting each other know that we also need a mental check-in, just like we need a physical check-in. And then, wow, that powerful conversation that we just heard with the amazing Nick Kober and Taraji P. Henson, that story that she told about having that tool in your hand, what is your tool that you have in your hand, was just really, really powerful and amazing. I think I have some notes here that I've been writing down this whole time because it really hit home for me. Thank you all for tuning in for the past 4 weeks. It has been an amazing time. I want to thank our partners, Coca-Cola. Therese, thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for your support of the Enterprising Women of Color program. To the amazing Adrian Trimble at NMSDC, thank you so much for your partnership in this initiative. We are so thankful and so grateful to all of you for being here today. And if you need resources, please visit us at mbda.gov. Our Enterprising Women of Color page will be updated with all of the recordings from all 4 of the sessions. We will also provide additional resources that you may need and put updates for our next events. So thank you again so much. Adrian, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jadita. And I echo everything that you just said. This series has been amazing. And I really liked how we closed out talking about our mental health, because that is so important that we learn to be better to ourselves. And it's okay. I had to learn that same word, that the word no is very powerful. So we thank you for partnering with us at the MBDA. You guys have been amazing. Thank you to Coca-Cola. Therese, you are always phenomenal. Appreciate your willingness to help support these types of platforms so that we can continue to support all of our women of color entrepreneurs that are out there. As I mentioned earlier, the timing of the session and the outstanding words of advice, wisdom that we've heard this afternoon, the timing just could not be any better. We want to say thank you to Nick for so expertly hosting and facilitating today's conversations. And of course, Taraji was just such an inspiration, and we were thrilled to have the opportunity to hear her story this afternoon, and for her to share and to be so candid and to be vulnerable right along with us. And of course, Dr. Black, thank you so much for your real talk, reminding us that self-care is not being selfish, but it's a necessity, and it's okay to focus on ourselves. A special thank you again to our partners at Minority Business News USA. Don McNeely, he's always been a great partner to NMSDC. He's taking care of all of the post-video edits for us so that we can continue to put this out, so that for those who may not have had the opportunity to see it, can see the recorded sessions on nmsdc.org as well as mbda.gov. We want to make sure that it's available for you. And even those of you who did see it, you might want to go back and tune in again, just because it was just that rich in content. Final word, again, just thanking our 2020 Enterprise Women of Color session, the Coca-Cola Company. You guys are amazing in all that you do to continue to advance minority business development. Please keep in mind that the 2020 NMSDC Leadership Series will conclude next week with our virtual awards program on June 11th. If you've not already registered, we invite you to go online to nmsdc.org to sign up and join the celebration. It's going to be an amazing event, very engaging, but most importantly, taking the time to recognize those that have continued to lead the efforts for minority business development and making progress on behalf of all of those out there, and giving a voice to those who may not always have a voice. And remember that you can always visit our nmsdccares.org website, which is where we have a COVID-19 resource center that provides a lot of information that you can find as it relates to COVID-19 information to help you as you begin to reopen your businesses. And we will have a session on that tomorrow as part of our leadership series on how to reopen your business to get ready to reopen the economy. So if you've not registered for tomorrow's session, please feel free to do so at nmsdc.org. We also want to make sure that you stay tuned for any other updated information. We have a lot of stuff happening around our network, our entire network. Please go to nmsdc.org to know what events are happening in your part of the country, because we have 23 affiliate councils that have all shifted and pivoted to virtual programming as well. They're doing some amazing things, putting out some very innovative programs. One of those coming up is on June 25th. It's being sponsored by our Carolinas, Virginia Council, and it's using technology for velocity, the evolution of artificial intelligence within procurement. The president and CEO of our Carolinas, Virginia Minority Supplier Development Council, Dominique Milton, would love to have all of you join her session because we know that we're trying to get prepared for what the future is going to bring, and we know that AI is going to be a big part of that. So you don't want to miss it. Again, anytime you're looking for information that goes on around our network, look on nmsdc.org. We do have a central location for everything that's happening within the NMSDC ecosystem. I saw some of the chats there, and you're looking for more information. That's where you can go to find it to know what is available to support you. And we hope that you did not miss our press release that was issued yesterday. But if you did, I just want to tell everyone that NMSDC is now positioned to help all of you. Our Business Consortium Fund has partnered with Midwest Bank Center to now offer minority businesses access to PPP loans. We will be doing that funding directly. We know, we heard you, we heard the survey data that said that 60% of minority businesses still had not received funding. Now we have the ability to provide that funding to you directly. Please visit BCF's website at www.bcfcapital.com/PPP-disclosure. That's critical information for you, for those of you who are still in need. We know that there's still $90 billion, so you do not want to miss this opportunity if your business is in need. Also, before we close out, we ask you to take a moment to participate in the survey. Your feedback is very important to us. We want to make sure that we're bringing you continued valued information so that you can continue to give us input and we can continue to deliver programming that's going to be helpful for you and your business. So please stay on to take advantage of the survey and participate. Thank you once again for being a part of the 2020 Enterprise of Women of Color series. Please, let's make sure you stay in touch. There'll be future sessions and hopefully ongoing collaboration between the National Minority Supplier Development Council and the Minority Business Development Agency. Jathita, thank you for your vision and your insight to have such a program like this put together, and we value the partnership with MBDA. In the meantime, everyone, be safe, be well, stay connected, and remember, minority business matters. Thank you so much for tuning in.